feeling. Nowadays, you got to have that kind because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed a promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, lads? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. My name is Aaron and this is the 2021 All-Ireland Football Predictions video. That's right, the All-Ireland Football Championship is starting this weekend. It throws in, of course, with a number of different games taking place this weekend. And yeah, it's flown by, hasn't it? I mean, it just felt like a couple of weeks ago. Well, it was a couple of weeks ago we were previewing the National Football League Championship because, of course, we had a condensed National Football League this year. And here we go. The All-Ireland Football Championship is here. It begins this weekend. And I'm very excited. I'm not going to lie. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's going to be as good as the National Football League. I think we've had a cracking Football League. And I do think we'll look back at this year in terms of Gaelic football and look at the league as a highlight, in all honesty. But the All-Ireland is here. This is what's most important. This is what supporters care about the most. This is what gets talked about the most, and this is what will be remembered. You know, you're not really remembered for winning the league unless maybe you're one of the lower counties. But if you're a Dublin, a Kerry, a Mayo, a Galway, a Donegal, an Armagh, you want to be winning those All-Ireland titles because this is what you are essentially remembered for. And this is the All-Ireland preview. I'll be predicting the entirety of the All-Ireland Football Championship, giving you what I think is going to happen, who is going to win the provincial championships, who is going to win the All-Ireland, who is going to win the semi-finals, who's going to be Footballer of the Year, and, you know, an outside bet as well to potentially keep an eye on. So yeah, look, listen, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Before we get straight into it though, if you could subscribe and leave a like, I would kindly appreciate it. The channel has been growing brilliantly lately, so I would love to continue that growth. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed already, do hit the subscribe button and like. You know, we do a number of podcasts, interviews, previews, predictions videos, absolutely everything. I had a football power rankings video out there a couple of days that certainly got a lot of people talking. So if you could leave a like and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. And look, listen, we're going to get cracking with the Leinster Senior Football Championship. And look, listen, I know the Leinster Championship is probably the least, it's the province that people are least looking forward to, in all honesty. I mean, it's the province that we all know the outcome for. I mean, to be fair, with the other championships like Connacht and Munster, to be fair, we can kind of give a reasonable assumption as to what's going to happen here. But in Leinster, we know for a fact that Dublin are obviously going to win the Leinster Senior Football Championship. And that's no disrespect to the other counties. I mean, Dublin have won this competition 10 years in a row, which is absolutely incredible. It really is. Well, incredible if you're a Dublin fan. Probably not incredible if you're a fan of any of the other counties. Yeah, and look, listen, we all know the Leinster Championship probably needs to be fixed. There's something that does need to be done at some point, and it certainly is a conversation that probably will be had on this channel again, unfortunately, at some point. But not today, obviously, because we're here to preview the games. We're here to predict the games. There are still games going ahead. There are still some things up for place. And although none of these counties other than Dublin will come through this province, I do think it's a chance for some counties to see where they're at. It's a chance for some counties to test themselves against counties in divisions above them. So it's going to be very interesting. It really is. So we have Leinster round one, first of all, and we've Offaly against Louth, we've Wicklow against Wexford, and we've Carlow against Longford. The winner of Louth and Offaly will play Kildare, the winner of Wicklow and Wexford will play Dublin, and the winner of Carlow and Longford will play Mead. We'll start with Offaly and Louth first of all. Obviously Offaly, by the time this video is out, the Offaly and Derry game will have already happened. I don't know the outcome to that game because the recording is actually before then, but I would suspect that Derry would get the win. But if Offaly do win that game, I mean, they'd come into this with a huge amount of momentum, won every game, of course, in the league up until that final, of course. Won their 3 league games and then won their playoff semi-final as well. So they won all the games that matter, and they're coming into this with a huge amount of momentum. Cian Farrell has been brilliant so far for Offaly. Rory McNamee, Bernard Allen, John Maughan has got them set up fantastically. They're an extremely fit, hard-working team. They're going to cause a lot of problems to teams in this Leinster Championship with the fact that the gap in Leinster, you know, outside of Dublin, if we just kind of use that for a moment, you know, there's not much between a lot of the different teams. There really isn't. So Offaly coming in on a good stead. Louth coming in on a good stead as well. Another team, obviously not a 100% record. They lost to Antrim on the opening day, but won their following 3 games, got themselves back into a promotion race, got promoted back to Division 3. Mickey Hart versus John Mon. We've seen these two go up against each other before. It's a very interesting one. And actually what's even more interesting is the winner will go up against Jack O'Connor's Kildare. So you've kind of got a little mini league going on here between all the former great managers in this Leinster Championship. It's very interesting. I'm going to go for Louth to beat Offaly, and people are going to be surprised by that because Louth are a Division 4 team going up to Division 3, and Offaly are going up to Division 2. But I just think Mickey Hart's Louth have got a lot better as the season's gone on. I think they've more forwards to contain than the likes of Offaly do. I could see Louth being quite defensive and astute, and I could see Mickey Hart just causing a bit of a surprise or a shock. Is it a big surprise if Louth beat Offaly? I don't know if it is, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games where Mickey Hart just kind of announces himself even more as a Louth manager. You've then got Wicklow and Wexford, and it's interesting because both of these two counties both had lost every game going into their final game of fixtures. Wicklow got that huge win over Cavan, a big, what an amount of momentum that will give them coming into this game at Ockram as well. Wexford got a huge win against Sligo, very commanding win, brilliant performance, silenced some of the doubters in there as well, and showed that maybe they are slightly moving in the right direction, despite what some people like myself think about them at the moment. I'm going to give Wicklow the edge. I think they're going to beat Wexford by a couple of points. I think Wicklow have shown a lot of progress over the past couple of seasons, and I think having stayed in Division 3 will give them the momentum. So Wicklow to beat Wexford. You've then got Carlow and Longford, and Longford, to be fair, coming in with huge momentum, having beaten Tipperary, so I fully expect them to get this victory. They've improved massively as the league went on, with Mickey Quinn getting more into the game and more into form. You've obviously got Darren Gallagher and Rian Brady, who've been very positive as well. Carlow are still in a bit of a transition under Niall Carew. They've certainly made strides this year, but I just fancy Longford to just get the edge over Carlow. So then that would leave Louth v Kildare, Wicklow v Dublin, and you have Leash versus Westmead in there as well, and Mead versus Longford. Mead versus Longford, first of all, we all know the game back in 2018. I've referenced it a number of times when Longford stunned Mead and beat them and progressed into Leinster semi-final. This is a tricky one for Mead, and this is a real banana skin in my opinion, because like what I said in the football power rankings, Mead have a lot of injuries at the moment. Will those players be back? This game takes place on the 4th of July, so it's still a bit away, but pressure is on Mead here. It really, really is, because for me, you can lose to a Dublin, that's fair enough. We know Dublin are a different animal, and even if Dublin beat Mead by 15 to 20 points, you'd kind of say, oh well, what do you expect with Mead's injuries and everything else and the progression of Dublin over the past couple of years? But I do think at the same time, this is a game they have to win. They have to be beating sides like Longford, and I could see Longford frustrating them. I could see Longford making it tough for them, but you'd have to go with Mead. You really would. You'd have to go with Mead to get the victory. They still have talent in there like James Connell, and Jordan Morris is a fantastic kicker of the ball. And for me, Mead need to find a way to get him more involved, because I've said before, like, Mead's biggest threat is goals. When you take that out of the equation, when teams set up very defensively and pack the fullback line, it makes it very tough for them. But Jordan Morris is one player who can kick points, in my opinion, from 30 to 40 metres. So they need to get him more involved in the game. And they just need to be patient on the ball. They can't rush things, they can't panic, and they should come through this. So I do think Mead will get the better of Longford. I think it will be close, but I think Mead will just about get the job done. Louth v Kildare, I think Louth will have, what a win it will be for them over Offaly, getting to Division 3 as well. Their season's done, in my opinion. They've done what they needed to do, and look, listen, I'm sure they would like to shock Kildare like they have in the past before, but you would have to fancy Kildare with the momentum coming off the back of being promoted from Division 2. I'm sure Jack O'Connor will have Kildare very well organised, very smart manager, of course. He'll know the way Louth has set up, and obviously he'll have been watching the Louth and Offaly game. He'll be a study in that game. So I'd go with Kildare to get the victory. Unfortunately for Wicklow, we know that Dublin are probably going to beat them quite comfortably. Be interested to see where the venue is. I'd love to see it in Ockram personally. I think it would be great to see Dublin go up there. Maybe some travelling Dublin fans, maybe like myself, can go up there. I'd love to go up there. Nice little weekend away in Wicklow. But yeah, look, listen, I think Dublin will win this by 15 to 20 points. Let's be honest, not to discredit Wicklow, but we all kind of know the outcome there. And for Wicklow, it will very much be preparation for the National League in 2022. We then have Leash and Westmead, two counties that are very familiar with each other. They've played each other quite a number of times over the past couple of years in the National League and the Championship, and huge game for Westmead. They showed a lot of promise in their 4 games. They lost every game, but they were impressive at different stages throughout those games. Leash are another team that lost every game, but Westmead showed a bit more quality in their 4 games, and they also played much tougher opposition than Leash. So I'm going to go with Westmead to get the victory by a couple of points. And what's interesting about the Leinster Senior Football Championship is that there actually hasn't been a draw yet. The draw actually doesn't happen until after the All-Ireland or after the Leinster quarter-finals, which shows you that the GAA is obviously, they know that teams, if they see themselves going up against Dublin potentially in a semi-final, you know, I don't know, they should have just done the semi-final draw. I actually have no idea why they really didn't, because like everyone kind of knows the outcome here. They should have just done the semi-final draw already. But yeah, look, listen, it would be Dublin, Mead, Westmead and Kildare in the semi-finals. Dublin will win the Leinster Senior Football Championship. They just have way too much firepower right now. In terms of Mead, Westmead and Kildare, if we were to put them in their own little mini-league for a moment, all of those sides could really beat anyone. Like Westmead on their day could potentially beat a Mead, and they could potentially shock a Kildare. The gap between those 3 is not as big as people think, but you would fancy Mead or Kildare against either a Westmead. Like they do have more, and they should be beating those. So if I was to rank the 4 best teams in Leinster right now, you'd obviously have Dublin as 1, you'd have Kildare as 2, Mead as 3, and Westmead as 4. Whatever way they play in the semi-finals, or whatever way it happens, you would have to fancy that eventually Dublin would come out the winners and win the Leinster Senior Football Championship. We then move on to the Munster Senior Football Championship, and we've Limerick v Waterford and Kerry v Clare. The winner of Limerick and Waterford plays Cork, and the winner of Kerry and Clare plays Tipperary. Limerick and Waterford. Limerick, of course, beat Waterford actually in the Championship last year in the opening game in the Munster Senior Football Championship, and they have a great record against Waterford over the past couple of seasons. And Limerick certainly at the moment are making a lot of strides. They obviously, were very close to being promoted to Division 2, very close to achieving back-to-back promotions. Certainly a county that is moving in the right direction, and you'd have to say with players like Hugh Burke and Ian Corbett, very talented defender. You've also, who else you've got in there? Danny Neville as well. They're surely going to have too much for Waterford, who done very well to get themselves into a Division 4 playoff, but Limerick should be winning that game comfortably. Kerry versus Clare is another interesting one. This could actually be Kerry's toughest test in Munster, with all due respect. I'm saying it's their toughest test. They should still comfortably win this championship, let's be perfectly honest. Clare showed a lot of, similar to Waterford, done a fantastic job in their division. Just a win away from getting up to Division 1. Showed a lot of promise against Mayo, put it up to them. David Tuberty, Owen Cleary, 2 really fantastic kicking forwards. Darren O'Neill in midfield, the engine in that Clare team. He really, really is. So fair play to Clare, but Kerry, with all the attacking threat that they have, they've got to be attacking in this championship. No defensive football, no blanket defence. Look, listen, we'll talk about when, I'm going to say this now, Kerry are getting to an All-Ireland final and they're playing Dublin. They have to. They just have to. They have the quality. We know they do. We've seen what they've done to Galway and Tyrone, 2 contenders underneath them. They can't play this blanket defence stuff. They need to play on the front foot, because they certainly have the forwards to do so. When they eventually play Dublin, okay, maybe then you can alter your style and change the way you play. But in terms of these games, Kerry need to play the way that we know that Kerry can play, with David Clifford, Paddy Clifford, who's almost like the Niall Scully of Kerry in many ways in terms of the work he puts in. You've obviously got Sean O'Shea, who's the playmaker, but he's also kicking points and goals as well. In behind the full forwards, Paul Ganey's been exceptional so far this year. You've got Stephen O'Brien potentially coming off the bench. Killian Spillane can't get a look in, and he's been a fantastic forward for Kerry down the years as well. Jeremy O'Connor has been brilliant in midfield as well so far. Obviously, we know the issues with their defence and goalkeeper, and we'll certainly discuss that a bit more as we progress along this championship. But Kerry should be beating Clare. They should also be beating Tipperary, in my opinion, as well in that semi-final. Tipperary, unfortunately, have regressed massively after achieving, what they achieved last year. And it was almost like they hit the mountain. They done what they had to do. not necessarily what they had to do, but they achieved all they really could ever achieve in winning that Munster Senior Football Championship. And you'd have to feel that Kerry would come into this game and probably beat Tipperary a little more convincingly than the Clare game as well. I think they'll win it quite comfortably, I really do. So Kerry to come past Clare and Tipperary and make that Munster final. Cork and Limerick in the Munster semi-final is an interesting one. It mightn't be as one-sided as people would think. A lot of people would think that Cork would probably win this by 5 to 10 points or maybe even double digits, but I certainly don't see it that way. Limerick have been competitive in almost every game I've seen them in the past year. They almost beat Tipperary in a semi-final, in the Munster semi-final last year. They were, like I said, a win away from promotion to Division 2, and Cork were a defeat away from relegation to Division 3, and if there was a game I was going to look at and say, this could be a shock, this could be a surprise, this could be a game where people are like, wow, I did not see that coming. Limerick could genuinely win this game, because Cork, they always seem to have a bit of a clangor in them at the moment. They really do. I mean, losing to Kildare in that game, they looked poor. And look, listen, they've gotten better as the league has gone on, and that's why I do think they will beat Limerick. I'm going to be honest, I do think they will beat Limerick. I think they've gotten better as the season's gone on. Luke Connolly's come back into the team, I think in the Leash game, and has really kind of kicked Cork on to the next level. Cathal O'Mahony is injured though, and they've a few other injuries in there as well, and that would be a worry from a Cork point of view. But certainly with the players and with the talent that they have and with the experience that they have in the team as well, they still have a few experienced heads in there. They should be coming through Limerick by a couple of points, but this game could be very close. Cork and Kerry then in a Munster final, and I know for a fact that the Kerry lads will be, they would have been looking when this draw was made, and they would have been thinking, when do we play Cork? Because they want to right that wrong. People are always going to talk about that win until Kerry go out and prove people wrong. Go out and beat Cork, beat them convincingly, and put yourselves into an All-Ireland semi-final. And you haven't gotten rid of the ghost necessarily, but Cork or Kerry have done what they have had to do. They've won the Munster Championship. Cork didn't win a Munster Championship last year. They beat Kerry, but they didn't win the Munster Championship. So this is a chance for Kerry to right that wrong, to get rid of the ghost, put themselves into the All-Ireland semi-finals, and I fully expect them to do so. I think Cork could cause a couple of problems in this game. I think Cork as an underdog is a kind of a different story a little bit. I think they'll frustrate Kerry. I think they'll probably set up in a similar way to how they did last year. They'll try go off that same template that they did last year that beat Kerry. They'll try bring them down to their own level. They'll keep possession for long periods of the game. But I think with Kerry's quality, they should eventually be picking Cork apart. And I do think that Kerry will win this game. We move on to the Connacht Senior Football Championship, and you've got Mayo against Sligo. The winner of that plays Leitrim, and Galway versus Roscommon. We'll talk about Galway versus Roscommon here first of all, because this will be, an intriguing battle. Unlike the Mayo Sligo and Leitrim game, with all due respect to those counties, this will be the interesting semi-final out of the two. Galway beat Roscommon obviously last year, or in the league this year, but they're coming into this game under a lot of pressure under Padraig Joyce. People probably have Padraig Joyce's head on a stick at this stage, and it's mad to think that, because we've all seen them before the pandemic. The football they were playing, they just can't seem to find that balance at the moment. They've shored up defensively since that Kerry game when they got absolutely trashed. But the problem is it's now going forward that seems to be a problem. Robert Finnerty has been a brilliant addition to the team. I think he's been brilliant this year. Shane Walsh hasn't quite... He's shown different glimpses of what he can do, and he's shown glimpses that he is one of the best forwards in the country, but he just hasn't done it consistently. We're all waiting for Galway to click into gear. Will it be in this Connacht Senior Football Championship? It's not impossible. You would expect them to beat Roscommon. Roscommon coming on the back of 4 straight defeats in the National League. Not really showing much momentum, or not showing any real promise at the moment. They look like they're regressing. They look like they're coming away from that era under Andy Cunningham and Kevin McStay, when of course they won Connacht titles. Ironically enough, they won Connacht titles in the same seasons that they were relegated. I just don't see Roscommon doing it, in all honesty, and I think Galway will have enough here against Roscommon. But one thing you would say is Galway will go in as favourites, Roscommon will go in as underdogs. For a team that's won just one game since the pandemic, to be going in as favourites is actually quite dangerous in my opinion. So there could be an upset here, certainly not ruling it out, but Galway should just have a bit more quality than Roscommon. Mayo against Sligo, and then the winner of that plays Leitrim. And I'm just going to say this first of all, why, Leitrim should be playing Sligo here. Why are Mayo playing Sligo, and why are why is the winner of that playing Leitrim? Do you know, like, just makes no sense. The structure of the championship, I mean, it's a debate for another day, but like, can anyone explain that to me? Please let me know in the comments down below. I don't know if it's something got to do with the system or because of last year's kind of chat. I really don't know, but Mayo and Sligo, and then the winner of that playing Leitrim. We know Mayo are coming through both of these two games. Which team will give Mayo the bigger test? Oh, I don't know. Like, you see my power ranking, Sligo and Leitrim are in the bottom two counties in Ireland at the moment in terms of Gaelic football. So, like, I don't know. I think Mayo will probably rest players for both of these two games. It's actually perfect preparation for Mayo going into a Connacht final, because they'll be able, like, Cillian O'Connor is going to be injured for the championship, which is going to be huge. It's going to have a massive effect on Mayo probably later down the line in the championship. But these two games against Sligo and against Leitrim gives them, it's the perfect chance to try out a Paul Towie, to tweak the system maybe going forward. Maybe they won't be as attacking now that they know they don't have that same player in Cillian O'Connor in their team. So it's the perfect chance for James Horan to try a couple of different things out, and you'd fancy them regardless to come through Sligo and Leitrim. And the Connacht final is where things could get interesting for Mayo, because although I just said, like, Galway have struggled since the pandemic, and you know they're kind of caught between should they be defensive or play on the front foot, and they can't seem to find the balance between the two. Galway could cause a shocker. They really could, because with Cillian O'Connor not being in the team, and some of the inexperience in Mayo's team in the full back line, and the Hessian coming in and whatnot, Galway could cause a shocker. They really could. They certainly have the talent to do so, and I don't think the gap between Mayo and Galway is that big. I really don't. And whilst Mayo have been fantastic so far this year, they've been playing Division 2 level teams, and Galway have been playing not just Division 1 level teams, but the best Division 1 level teams in both Galway and Dublin. Obviously, Roscommon and Monaghan are an exception to that. But certainly Mayo have, or Galway have played higher level opposition than Mayo. And that will be the same going into a Connacht final, because Galway will have played Roscommon, Mayo will have played Sligo and Leitrim. You would have to say Mayo. Mayo have beaten Galway the last 3 times these sides have played each other. It is an interesting one, and it will be a good provincial final to watch. There'll be some provincial finals that you probably won't get excited for, maybe the Leinster final in particular, but this one you could get excited for, and Galway and Mayo has always been an intriguing rivalry. But I'd give Mayo the edge right now anyway, just about. I think they just have too much for Galway, but with the injuries and with some other things, maybe other factors coming into it, I don't know, Galway could cause a shock, but I'm going to give Mayo the edge. And last but not least, we have the Ulster Senior Football Championship, and this now is where things actually get quite interesting, because the other 3 championships, you could really you have a general idea of what's going to happen. Okay, these 2 teams are going to make a final, this team's going to win it, and this is going to happen here. But with the Ulster Championship, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I honestly have no idea. I really don't, and I'm probably just going to make up my mind as I go along here. Down in Donegal, first of all, in the preliminary round, this is probably the easy draw to pick. I mean, there's a few easy ones in here, but Donegal should be beaten down. Let's be honest. They really, really should. Down, fair play to them. They won 2 of their division, or they won 2 of their National League games. They stay in Division 2 for another year. It's success for them, even if they lose this game. They've done what they had to do, and staying in Division 2. They can build again now for next year. Monaghan Fermanagh is a banana skin. It really, really is, because Fermanagh have beaten Monaghan in the past. They beat them in the 2018 Ulster Senior Football Championship. Monaghan obviously beat Fermanagh in a qualifier a year later, but neither side were particularly good that day. So there is a potential here for Fermanagh to cause a shock. There really is, with players like Sean Quigley in there, you know, and there is a potential there. There really, really is. It's not impossible that they don't win this game, but you'd have to feel that Monaghan surely will get this one right. Coming in on the back of momentum, having beaten Galway in that Division 1 playoff, relegation playoff. Jack McCarron looking in phenomenal form. Conor McManus as well. Darren Hughes, a great outlet off the bench or whether he starts. So, going to give Monaghan the edge. Surely they're not going to do what Monaghan have done in the past couple of years, and is lose in a game in the Ulster Championship when you don't think they will. I mean, they got beat by Cavan in the past 2 seasons. The year before that, or a couple of years before that, they got beat by Fermanagh. So surely Monaghan aren't going to do that. Surely they're going to come through and win. Armagh Antrim, it's another one. It's an easy one for Armagh, in my opinion. Fair play to Antrim. They've done what they had to do. They won all their games in Division 4. They're certainly progressing under Enda McGinley. Enda McGinley, a staunch Tyrone man, former Tyrone footballer and All-Ireland winner, going up against Armagh. He'd love nothing more than to cause a massive shock in this game. But I feel with Armagh and the quality that they have, in the O'Neill brothers, in Stephen Campbell, Jamar Hall. Yeah, Armagh will come through that. Tyrone, Cavan. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, Cavan have had a dreadful year. Obviously, this year, you know, getting relegated, going down to Division 3 or Division 4. It's been a nightmare for them. Tyrone have certainly not, they're not, you know, both sides are coming into this game on the back of humiliating defeats in many ways. I mean, which one is worse? I'm going to give Tyrone the edge here. Look, listen, Cavan will relish being the underdogs. I think Mickey Graham will have the Cavan boys fired up for this. I wouldn't be surprised if Cavan put in a serious performance here and really kind of stepped it up a notch and showed the same level of performance that they showed against Donegal in the Ulster Championship. But I just think Tyrone's firepower will cause too much problems for Cavan, and I do think for Cavan, I just don't think you can turn it around, and I don't think you can go from being that poor to beating a Tyrone. I just don't think you can do it. So Tyrone will win it by a couple of points, maybe 3 or 4, but I would expect Cavan to put in a performance there. We would then have Derry against Donegal, and I mean, this is it for Derry. You know, Derry having shown so much promise so far this year, having won every game so far in the National Football League. Obviously, I'm recording this before the Offaly game, so I'm going to say that they win that game. I feel like they will. I could be wrong, but I feel like they will. With Shane McGuigan and Conor Glass and Emmett Bradley in midfield, and, you know, the tremendous amount of talent they have, Brendan Rodgers in defence and some of the other players in there. Can they do it? Can they actually turn Donegal over? I don't think they can. I think Donegal will just have a bit too much. I think with Donegal's experience in Ulster, it's probably the worst team for Derry to play, and I actually think that Donegal have the down game will help Donegal as well, because it will give them more time to be prepared. It will give them more time to be ready for this game. So I'm going to just about go with Donegal. I think they'll win it by a couple of points. I think it'll be close, but just Donegal. You then have Donegal versus Tyrone, and you have Armagh versus Monaghan. Armagh versus Monaghan, first of all, I mean, both of these two games are going to be very close. Both of these games are going to be very, very intriguing. We've seen when these sides met each other in their little mini Ulster championship that they had going on in Division 1, we've seen that there was not much between all of the teams. There was draws, there was nothing between all of them. I really think you could make a case for any of these 4 to win the Ulster Championship, but I'm going to go with Armagh and Donegal to both come through their games and make the final. The reason being is I think Armagh have been progressing. I think they've made a lot of strides this year. Rian O'Neill has been fantastic. Stephen Campbell has been brilliant. He's really taken it up a notch. I think we always knew Rian O'Neill had, we always knew the talent that he had. We always knew the talent that Oisin O'Neill had. They move a lot with pace. They play on the front foot. And I think Armagh are going to make it through to that final. Donegal have just had the better of Tyrone in recent seasons, and there hasn't been enough evidence to suggest that Tyrone are going to win this game, in my opinion. And look, they could go out and dish Cavan a battering, and Donegal could struggle in their games against Derry and Down, and maybe then we can have a different way of thinking, and maybe I'll change my mind by the time this game comes around. But I just think Donegal have had the edge over Tyrone over the past couple of seasons, and I do think Brian Dooher and Fergal Logan's Tyrone probably have more potential of winning an All-Ireland quicker than Donegal. But I do think right now Donegal are just a step above Tyrone. So I'm going to give Donegal the edge by a couple of points. And then we have Donegal and Armagh in an Ulster final. And this is where I'm going to give a bit of a surprise prediction. I think Armagh are going to do it. I think they're going to win the Ulster Senior Football Championship. And it's a big prediction because Armagh haven't beaten a top level team for as long as I can remember. But I do think with the players that they have, this is the year they're going to do it. I think this is the year they're going to do it. And I think with Donegal's injuries, and I think the fact that Donegal will have played Down, they'll have played Derry, they'll have played Tyrone, and then Armagh, do they have the capability of winning all 4 of those games? You know, and we've seen Donegal get caught in the Ulster final last year. I think it can happen, I really do. And I think Armagh, with the way they'll, we've seen the problems they caused for Donegal at different stages in that National League game. And I just think Armagh are going to be better in this game. I think they're going to win more ball in midfield. I think Donegal are going to struggle defensively to deal with the likes of Rian O'Neill, Stephen Campbell, Rory Grugan. I think, you know, when you take Michael Murphy out of the equation, I think Armagh have better forwards than Donegal. I know Donegal probably have the better forward in Paddy McBrearty. He's the best forward on the pitch, in my opinion. But I think when you match up the two together, I think Armagh are better. Aidan Forker could be back by then. I think he's a brilliant defender, and I think he'll do a job on Donegal's defence. So I'm going to go with Armagh to get the victory, win the Ulster Championship, and go to an All-Ireland semi-final. Probably their first Ulster Championship win since, 2008, I think it is. and also their first time playing in an All-Ireland semi-final since maybe 2008 as well, I'm not sure. So yeah, Armagh go through to an All-Ireland semi-final. And it would leave Armagh and Kerry and Dublin and Mayo. Kerry will be beating Armagh, let's be honest. Fair play to Armagh at this point. They'll have done what they needed to do. Massive progression, having won the Ulster Championship. But Kerry will come through that game. And then you've Dublin and Mayo. Dublin and Mayo has always been a very intriguing battle. And the last time these sides met in an All-Ireland semi-final, of course, Dublin won this one very, very comfortably. Don't think it'll be as comfortable this time. I think Mayo will cause a couple of problems. Mayo will probably be in it for 30 to 40 to 50 minutes, and they'll cause Dublin problems, and Dublin forwards will have problems maybe against some of Mayo's defence, because Mayo's defence, like the likes of Lee Keegan, always tends to have a good game against Dublin, and Stephen Cohen and whatnot will probably do a good job. Paddy Durkin as well. But I think eventually Dublin will, Mayo's problem will be their full back line, and I could see Con O'Callaghan and Cormac Costello if he starts, or Dean Rock if he's back in the team, Paddy Small causing all sorts of problems for Mayo. So Dublin will get the victory. And then in the words of Bruce Buffer, it's the one you have all been waiting for. Dublin and Kerry in the All-Ireland Senior Football Final. Here we go, in the words of Bruce Buffer as well. And you know what? It deserves a Bruce Buffer entrance, this game, because this is, a titanic game. This is two heavyweights. This is the two best teams in Gaelic footballing history. This is everything that you want to see. The El Clasico of Gaelic football, the showpiece event in Gaelic games. Dublin and Kerry. Let's make it happen, please. And look, listen, as a Dublin fan, I love nothing more for Kerry to slip up against Clare or Tipperary. But you want to see the best games in Gaelic football. And Dublin and Kerry has always produced an absolute masterpiece. It really has, other than 2015, actually, which was, that was a horrendous All-Ireland football final that we won't. How is this game going to go? Well, looking at it right now, I think Kerry will play defensive in this game, and I think they should do, because I think you can't go all-out attack against Dublin. Look, listen, they'll be balanced. They'll pick and choose their moments, because Dublin, to be fair to them, they are a brilliant defensive team, and I think Jim McGuinness has highlighted it, obviously, recently. They're the best defensive team in the country. They're not a sole defensive team. Like, they don't just play defensive every game or have a blanket defense or anything like that. But they have the best defense in the country. And when they need to shut up shop and when they need to be defensive, they do so. We've seen it in numerous different times in their games in the league this year. We've seen it last year as well. When they need to shut up shop and be defensive and defend what they have, they do so. And I think they'll do so a little bit in this game as well. And my worry for this game is that you could see both teams be very cautious, maybe not play to their full potential, maybe with the fact that there's so much on the line and that both teams don't want to lose. They're more thinking about not losing than winning. But I think when you look at the history of both Dublin and Kerry in recent seasons, I just don't see that happening. I see this being a very, very intriguing battle. I do think Dublin will get the victory. Look, I tipped Kerry and Dublin to make the final last year. I thought Kerry would beat Dublin because I thought that Dublin were making a lot of different changes around then. Jim Gavin had stepped away. There was retirements. Dermot Connolly, a few of the backroom team had moved away. I just thought it was a great year to catch Dublin on a hop, and I still believe that. But this year, I don't think so. I think Dublin have stepped it up a notch. They look motivated, and I think by the time this game comes around, I think they'll have peaked. They'll be in peak form. Dublin always kind of wait till the Leinster final, All-Ireland semi-final, or Super 8s, or whenever they had that, of course, going on. That's normally when they kick into gear, and I could see them just having too much for Kerry. I think Kerry have the better forwards than Dublin, in my opinion, like I said before. But I think Dublin have a better defence and better midfield, and I think that will be the difference here. And I think ultimately Dublin will end up winning it by 5 or 6 points. I think it will be similar to the All-Ireland final last year between Dublin and Mayo, where Mayo pushed Dublin for 40 to 50 minutes and 55 minutes going into the final water break. But I think in those final 15 minutes, Dublin will just have a bit more. What's interesting though is I don't think Dublin will have the advantage coming off the bench that they did last year. You could arguably say Kerry's bench is better in terms of forward, so that will be interesting, because Kerry could get better as the game goes on. But right now, I just think Dublin will have too much. I think their midfield and defence will be too strong, in my opinion. And 7 in a row. Dublin winning 7 All-Irelands in a row. That's what I think will happen. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Do let me know down in the comments below. Who do you think will win these different Ulster championships, or different provincial championships, I should say. As I said before, Armagh to win Ulster. I think that Dublin, Leinster, Kerry, Munster and Mayo, Connacht. In terms of Footballer of the Year, I might do an All-Star predictions video if I get around to it. I might even leave that till next week. But in terms of Footballer of the Year, who will I go for? I think David Clifford. I think it's got to be Clifford. Look, if Kerry get to an All-Ireland final, it's got to be David Clifford. I think Conor O'Callaghan could come close. If Cormac Costello starts, he could be in with a contention. The usual suspects like Brian Fenton, Stephen Cluxton could certainly get a shout. But yeah, I'm going to go with David Clifford. I think he is the best footballer in the country, in my opinion. He still needs to prove it. Still needs to win All-Ireland. Still needs to get up to that level. But I think in terms of like natural ability, he is the best footballer right now. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here anyway. Leave a like, subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you for some match reactions this weekend in the All-Ireland Football Championship.